I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We met in college, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. Good jobs, 2 kids, a house in the suburbs. Typical perfect family picture. But lately, things have felt off. She started being more distant, snapping at me over small things and avoiding intimacy altogether. I figured maybe she was just stressed with work or overwhelmed with the kids, but deep down I knew something was wrong. It started subtly. She'd be secretive with her phone, always texting or scrolling in a way that didn't sit right. I caught her deleting messages a few times, and she'd give me that bitchy smirk and brush it off with some excuse about being tired or needing to focus. But I wasn't buying it. I kept my eye on her, especially after my gut kept nagging at me. You know how it is, when you sense something's wrong but don't want to confront it outright because you're afraid of what you might find. Still, I kept my cool. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Then came the family reunion last weekend. It's supposed to be a happy gathering, everyone catching up, eating way too much, sharing old stories. I was helping my mom set up in Grandma's house, organizing some of the old family photos that she wanted to display. Lisa was supposed to be hanging out with her sister, but I noticed she kept wandering around, avoiding me. I didn't think much of it at first. Then out of nowhere, I spot her sneaking into Grandma's sewing room, an old, cramped space where she knows she's not supposed to go. I didn't think much of it, just assumed she was grabbing something or hiding from someone. What caught my eye next was her face. She looked nervous, like she'd just gotten caught doing something she shouldn't. I thought maybe she was talking to her sister or texting someone, no big deal. But then I saw her pull out her phone. She was typing something fast, then hiding the screen when she saw me. My curiosity piqued. I moved closer, pretending to look at some fabric in the corner, and I caught a glimpse of the screen. It wasn't just a message from her sister, no, it was a string of messages on some secret app. I couldn't read everything, but I saw enough: flirty messages, mentions of meeting up, and a lot of heart emojis. That's when I saw the name, Ryan. My blood ran cold. Ryan is Lisa's cousin. Yeah, the cousin that everyone's always joking about because he's a bit of a player, always surrounded by women. And Lisa, she's always acted like she's above that stuff, like she's too good for any of that nonsense. The fact that she was messaging him for months on some secret app, it floored me. I felt sick, like I'd just been punched in the stomach. How long had this been going on? Why? All those questions swirling around my head, but I knew I'd find out soon enough. I didn't confront her right there in front of everyone. Instead, I backed away slowly, pretending I was looking for something in my pocket. When I got to my truck, I couldn't breathe. My hands were trembling, my mind racing. I knew I had to do something. I needed to find out the truth, and I needed to do it quietly. This wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was a betrayal, one that cut deep. I had to decide what I was going to do next, but right now, all I could think about was how Lisa had lied to me so blatantly, how she thought she could get away with cheating with her cousin behind my back, in Grandma's sewing room of all places. That's where we're at now. I've got the evidence, and I'm trying to figure out my next move. I feel betrayed, angry, and hurt, but I also want to understand why she did it. We've had fights before, but this was different. It's a whole new level of betrayal, and I honestly don't know if I can come back from it or if I even want to. All I know is I just found out the woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had been secretly messing around with someone who's technically family. And I'm not sure how I'm supposed to move forward from that. After I got home that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the scene in Grandma's sewing room, her sneaking away, her nervous face, the messages from Ryan. I kept asking myself if I missed signs, if I was blind to it all. Honestly, I was furious, but mostly I felt numb. How could she, Lisa, my wife, do this to me, to us? I trusted her with everything, and now I was sitting here wondering how much of our life was just a lie. I decided I needed to confront her. No more hiding, no more pretending I hadn't seen. I figured I'd get her to admit it, or at least tell me what the hell was going on. The next morning, I waited until she was in the shower, then I went through her phone. I had to be sure, really sure. I scrolled through the messages, saw the exchanges she'd had with Ryan, flirty, suggestive, sometimes downright explicit. They'd been messaging for months and she'd lied about everything. Said she was just talking to an old friend, that she'd lost contact with Ryan, that it was all innocent. Yeah, right. When she finally came out of the shower, I was sitting right there, phone in hand. She froze when she saw my face. I looked at her and just said, "Who the hell is Ryan, and what's all this?" Her eyes widened, and she immediately started spinning some bullshit about how it was just a mistake, that she didn't think it was serious. She called him her distant cousin, said they'd just been messaging about family stuff, that she didn't mean for it to go this far, that she was bored, that it was just sexless flirtation, nothing more. I lost my shit. I told her I saw the messages, I read them myself. She kept lying, calling me paranoid, accusing me of mistrusting her. She even had the nerve to say, "It's not a big deal, Jake. You're overreacting. It's not like I actually cheated, right?" That's when I saw her true colors, bitchy, manipulative, trying to turn it around on me, like I was the one in the wrong for catching her. Honestly, I couldn't believe her audacity. How did she think she could get away with this? How did she think I'd never find out? I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I was angry she'd betrayed me, but I was also devastated that she could lie so easily. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and ask how she could do this to us. Instead, I just looked at her coldly and told her I needed some space to think. I told her I didn't want to talk to her for a while and that she needed to leave the house. She snapped back, trying to call me crazy, accusing me of being jealous, like I couldn't handle her talking to her cousin or whatever excuse she whipped up. That only made me angrier. I knew she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt my own eyes. As she stormed out that day, I felt like my world was crashing down. I was furious, yes, but also deeply hurt. Every memory, every moment I'd shared with her suddenly felt tainted. How could she do this? Was she really capable of betraying me like this behind my back for months? And what about the lies? All those times she said she loved me, that she was faithful. I kept asking myself how much of what she told me was just bullshit. I was furious at her, but I also felt betrayed by myself for not seeing it sooner. I spent the next few days in a daze trying to piece everything together. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sneaking into Grandma's sewing room, her guilty face, those messages. I felt humiliated, angry, and incredibly stupid for not noticing sooner. But I also knew I couldn't just sit around and let her keep lying. I had to decide what to do next. Was this the end? Could I forgive her? Would I even want to? Every hour brought new questions and no real answers. All I knew was that my trust was shattered and I'd never look at her the same way again. The worst part is that I kept going over every moment, every conversation, trying to find some explanation that could make sense of it all. But honestly, there wasn't one. Lisa's attitude after I caught her only made things worse. She was defensive, bitchy even. Every time I tried to talk about what I saw, she'd brush it off, call me paranoid. She'd roll her eyes and say, "You're overreacting, Jake. It's just sex, for God's sake. It doesn't mean anything. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." But I knew better. I saw the messages. I knew it wasn't just sex, it was an emotional affair. And she was deep into it. One day, I decided I needed to get more concrete proof. So I installed a keylogger on her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I wanted to know how far this thing went, how many lies she told, the full scope of her betrayal. When I checked the logs, I saw more than I expected. She'd been sending explicit photos, talking about meeting up after the reunion. They had plans, explicit plans, behind my back. And the worst part, she kept lying about it, saying she'd never do something like that, that I was paranoid, that I was jealous for no reason. That was a turning point for me. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was planned, deliberate, and she was trying to hide it from me. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. My mind was racing. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? I thought I knew her, but I was painfully wrong. I'd trusted her with everything, and now I saw her for what she truly was. A liar, a cheat, someone I couldn't recognize anymore. I couldn't keep it bottled up. The anger boiled over, and I finally decided I had to confront her again. I called her up and told her I knew everything about the messages, the photos, the plans. I told her I'd seen enough and that I was done playing the fool. She tried to deny it all, claiming I hacked her phone, that I was crazy. She called me clingy and tried to turn it around, saying I was just insecure, but I wasn't buying her shit anymore. I told her I was sick of her lies, that I wouldn't stand for her cheating behind my back, especially with her cousin. That's when she started yelling, calling me obsessive, saying I was ruining everything. Honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she be so callous? How could she sit there and lie to my face after I'd uncovered everything? I wanted to tear her apart, but I knew I had to keep my cool. I told her she needed to leave the house, that I didn't want to see her face again until she was honest with herself. She threw a fit, calling me crazy, jealous, possessive, and even accused me of cheating myself, because apparently I was having secret meetings with some woman at work. That was the last straw. I knew she was trying to gaslight me, manipulate me into doubting my own judgment. That day marked the beginning of the end. I felt completely shattered, like my trust had been ripped to shreds. The betrayal was so raw, so shocking, I couldn't even cry anymore. I just felt numb. All I knew was that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to figure out what I was going to do, whether to fight for this mess or walk away and try to start over. But deep down, I knew that once trust is broken like that, it's almost impossible to repair. Still, I needed to process everything. I needed to decide if I wanted to salvage what was left or if I should just cut my losses and move on. The pain was real, but so was the realization that my whole life had just been turned upside down by someone I thought loved me. In the days that followed, I felt like I was living in a fog. Every time I thought about Lisa and what she'd done, I'd get this wave of anger mixed with a deep, gnawing sadness. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see the way she'd been acting distant or the way she'd lie so effortlessly. I would replay all the good times, the late-night talks, the plans for the future. It all suddenly felt meaningless. I wondered if I was blind, if I'd been so blind I'd missed the obvious warning signs, or if I just refused to see the truth because I loved her too much. I knew I had to confront her again. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. So I called her and told her to meet me at a nearby coffee shop. When she showed up, she looked defiant, like she was ready for a fight. She tried her usual gaslighting, calling me crazy, accusing me of spying, saying I was jealous and insecure. She even had the nerve to tell me I was overreacting, that she'd never actually cheated, just messaged a few times, and that I was blowing everything out of proportion. She said she was sorry that she did mean for it to get this far, that she'd stop and everything would go back to normal. I looked at her and just said, "Lisa, I saw the messages, I saw the photos, I know you've been lying to me for months. You cheated on me with Ryan, how do you even sleep at night?" She rolled her eyes and snapped, "It's not like it was anything serious, just sex, it's not a big deal, I was bored, okay? I didn't think you'd find out." Her voice was bitchy, dismissive, like I was the crazy one. But I wasn't having it anymore. I told her that her excuses were bullshit, that I wasn't some fool who'd put up with cheating, especially not from the woman I loved. When I told her I was done, she threw a tantrum. She said I was overreacting, that I was being possessive, that I was ruining everything. She called me clingy and accused me of cheating myself, saying I was probably messaging some woman behind her back. That really pissed me off. The nerve of her, trying to turn it around, trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. I told her she had one chance to be honest, to tell me the truth and own up to what she'd done. Otherwise, I wasn't going to keep wasting my time. She stared at me with that bitchy smirk and refused. Said she loved me, but she wasn't going to apologize for something she didn't see as wrong. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep going like this. I felt completely broken, but also furious. Furious that she thought she could lie her way out of this, that she could cheat and then just brush it off. I decided I needed to get some space. I told her she had to leave the house that same day. She threw another fit, screamed at me, called me controlling, jealous, insecure. She said I was overreacting again, that I was crazy for even thinking she could do something like that. But I didn't care anymore. I just wanted her gone. As she stormed out, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut 100 times over. My stomach was in knots. I sat there staring at the door, feeling the weight of everything. Her betrayal, her lies, the fact that I'd trusted her with my heart and she'd thrown it away. I was angry, yes, but also numb. I'd lost my wife, maybe forever, and yet I couldn't stop questioning myself. Did I miss the signs? Was I naive? Or was she just a manipulative bitch who thought she could get away with anything? I spent the next couple of days just trying to breathe, trying to come to terms with what had happened. Every time I looked at my phone, I'd see the messages she deleted, the photos she sent, and I'd feel that cold, burning hurt again. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and honestly like a fool. How could I have been so blind? How could she do this to me, to us? I kept telling myself that I deserved better, that I should never tolerate being lied to or cheated on. But the truth was, I still loved her. That part of me was still holding on, even though I knew deep down I probably shouldn't. Right now, I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Do I fight to save this? Do I just walk away? Every option feels like a punch to the gut. I keep going back over everything, trying to find some sort of clarity, some reason why she'd do this. And honestly, I don't have many answers. All I know is I'm hurt, I'm angry, and I'm trying to stay strong. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that trust, once broken that badly, is almost impossible to fix. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at Lisa the same way again. The more I thought about everything, the more I realized that my entire perception of our relationship had been a lie. I kept replaying her lies, her dismissive attitude, her attempts to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. She'd always been a bitch about things, snapping at me, making me feel like I was paranoid. But now everything clicked into place. She'd been hiding this affair from the beginning, sneaking around, messaging Ryan behind my back in the dimly lit sewing room, trying to keep her other life separate from me. I spent days trying to process the betrayal, but it was like walking through a fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Only think about how she'd planned all this, how she'd lied for months, pretending to be the perfect wife. I felt stupid for trusting her, for believing we had something real. I also felt anger at her for cheating, at Ryan for being a scumbag, and at myself for not seeing it sooner. I wanted revenge, but I also knew I needed to do something smarter than just storm out or make a rash decision. One afternoon, I decided I'd had enough of feeling helpless. I needed to confront her one last time, call her out, really make her understand what she'd done. I reached out and told her to meet me at the house. When she arrived, her face was defiant, like she thought she could still manipulate me. I told her I knew everything about the messages, the pictures, the plans, everything. She rolled her eyes and said, "It was just sex, Jake. It meant nothing. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You're overreacting." She kept insisting it was innocent, just some stupid mistake, and that she loved me. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, Lisa. You lied, you cheated, and you betrayed everything we had. I saw the messages, I saw the photos. You were planning to meet up with him after the reunion behind my back, and you're trying to spin it like it's nothing." Her face twisted with anger and she spat back, "You're crazy. You don't understand what it's like to be married to someone like you, so controlling, so insecure. Maybe I should have just kept doing what I wanted. You're the one who's been so jealous lately. You're the one who drives me away." That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. Her words only made me angrier. I told her I was done, that I'd had enough of her lies and manipulation. She kept yelling, calling me possessive, insecure, crazy. She even accused me of cheating myself, saying I was probably messaging some woman at work just like she'd messaged Ryan. That was the final straw. I told her to pack her shit and get out, that I never wanted to see her again until she was honest with herself. She threw a fit, screaming and crying, calling me every name in the book. But I didn't care anymore. I felt nothing but emptiness and rage. I was tired of her lies, tired of feeling like the fool. I realized I'd been holding on to hope that she'd change, that she'd be faithful, but now I knew better. She had no intention of stopping, and I could no longer pretend this was something I could fix. That night, I stayed up all night, staring at the ceiling, trying to process the pain. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Was it my fault? Or was she just a manipulative bitch who thought she could get away with anything? I knew I had to decide what's next, whether to fight for us or to walk away and start over. But honestly, I felt crushed, like I'd lost a part of myself. What hurts the most is knowing she didn't just cheat. She lied and kept hiding it until she thought she was untouchable. I'm not sure where I stand now, but one thing's clear. I can't keep living in this betrayal. I have to be strong enough to move on, even if it kills me to think about what I've lost. And I hope someday I'll find someone who's honest and loyal. Because right now, I just feel exhausted, wiped out by the realization that the woman I loved was capable of so much deception. If there's any lesson here, it's that trust can be broken in an instant, and once it's gone, it's almost impossible to rebuild. In the aftermath of everything, I've been trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The house feels emptier than it ever did before. Every corner, every little thing reminds me of Lisa, her scent on the pillow, her clothes in the closet, the little things she used to do that now seem so distant and fake. I've moved out, staying with a friend for the moment, just trying to breathe and not drown in the pain. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy who got betrayed like this, especially by someone I loved so much. But here I am, learning the hard way that trust is fragile, and some people will betray it without a second thought. Looking back, I realize I was blind for a long time. I ignored the red flags, made excuses for her bitchy attitude, convinced myself she was just stressed or tired. I was so afraid of losing her that I let her walk all over me. Now I see how foolish that was. If I'd paid closer attention, I might have seen the signs earlier. Her secretive behavior, the deleted messages, the way she avoided me in public. But I was too trusting, too in love to see the truth. And that's the harsh lesson I had to learn. Love isn't enough if honesty and loyalty are missing. I also know I need to focus on myself now. I'm trying to rebuild my confidence, reclaim my sense of worth. I've started going to therapy, talking through everything, trying to understand how I got here and how I can move forward. It's not easy. Some days are better than others. Some days I feel like I've moved past it, ready to start fresh. Other days the pain hits me out of nowhere and I get angry all over again. But I remind myself that I deserve better, a relationship built on honesty, respect, and loyalty. Not lies, not secret apps, not betrayal. If there's one thing I want to say to anyone reading this, whether you're going through something similar or just need a little reassurance, it's this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Don't brush it aside because you're afraid of losing someone, because eventually the lies catch up with you. And when they do, the pain is worse than you can imagine. Be honest with yourself about what you can tolerate, and don't be afraid to walk away if someone shows you they're not worth your trust. Right now, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll find someone new someday who values me, who's honest and faithful. Maybe I'll never trust again quite the same way. But I do know this: what happened with Lisa has changed me. It's made me realize my own strength, even in the face of heartbreak. I've learned that betrayal cuts deep, but I also learned how to pick myself up. And one day, I hope to look back on this and see it as a painful chapter that made me stronger, wiser, and more aware of what I deserve in life.